Welcome to Dining with Dante. Today on the show we are going to make an Italian-American dish, spaghetti and meatballs. Now if you've never had spaghetti and meatballs, or your only version comes from a can or a jar, you are in for a treat. So join me on a culinary journey through history as we prepare this timeless favorite. Sauce takes hours to come together. Think of the ingredients as friends who haven't really met yet, but after hours of dancing around the tomato sauce together, they really bind and mesh together. This is the magic that makes such a good spaghetti sauce. The first thing I'm going to do is cut off the ends. I'm sliding instead of pushing because pushing gives less clean of a cut. The next thing I'm going to do is put a hole in it and then peel off the skin. I cut the onion in half so that I can easily cut or dice the onions. First thing I'm going to dice is this side. I'm dicing with the grain. It's cut lengthwise. I need to cut it the other way to provide a dice. Okay, so now that we have diced our onions, we're going to be adding 2 tablespoons of olive oil into the pan and let it go to medium-high heat. As soon as we do that, as soon as it gets up to this temperature, we're going to be adding our onions and our garlic. We could use regular old garlic cloves, the traditional way, but those take too long to prepare, and instead we can use minced garlic in a jar. So now, that's up to temperature, we can add our garlic, and our onions, and we will be stirring these around until the garlic becomes brown and the onions become transparent. Now that we have finished sauteing our onions and garlic, as you can see, the garlic is brown and the onions are semi-transparent. Now we're going to be adding tomatoes. Now, tomatoes that come in a can are just as good as regular tomatoes that you would have to blanch in hot water and then peel the skins off and then blend them. But that takes way too long, so instead we're just going to be using organic canned tomatoes and tomato sauce, which is only tomatoes, nothing else. So,
how many cans?
So now we're adding 5 cans of tomatoes, 3 cans of tomato sauce, and 2 cans of diced tomatoes.
Stir. Reduce the heat. I'll say that.
Now I'm reducing the heat because we don't want this tomato sauce to burn and stick to the bottom, and then it doesn't taste quite well at all. So now I'm stirring this to mix up all the onions and garlic at the bottom. Next up are our herbs. Basil is up first for our herbs. Basil is a sweet herb, and there are 2 types of basil that you can use. There's fresh basil, and then there's dried basil. We're going to go with the dried basil today because the dried basil is a lot more common in houses. So now we're going to take our basil, we're going to sprinkle it just enough across the top that it covers the top, roughly around 4 tablespoons. So now, as you see, we have added 4 tablespoons of basil, just enough to cover the top. Next is oregano. Oregano is a very earthy herb, and we're going to be adding around the same amount as we did with basil. sauce is probably the most controversial. It's sugar. In northern Italy, people would never use sugar in their sauce. But people in southern Italy, because their tomatoes are so acidic, the sugar helps balance out the acidic flavor of the tomatoes. Today we are going to be adding just about a little bit of sugar to our sauce. Now we've added every ingredient to our sauce. Of course, you can add and take away as many ingredients as you want from this sauce. But now, we're going to mix it together. And then we're going to cover it and let it sit for about a couple hours while we go and make our meatballs. I'm making the meatballs. I'm going to add 1.5 pounds of ground beef, 2 tablespoons of minced garlic, 1 onion diced, 1 whole egg, 2 cups of breadcrumbs, a little bit of salt, little grinds of pepper, Parmesan cheese, and some water. Now that everything is mixed together, now that everything is in the bowl, we're going to be mixing it together, and we're going to be using the 2 best mixers in the world to mix these together. Left hand and right hand. I'm going to be mixing using these 2 hands, and I'm going to mix and make sure I get everything thoroughly mixed in together by getting everything along the sides until they're thoroughly mixed together. Together, we're going to start forming the balls. We're going to try and make these about the size of the golf ball. It's okay if they're if they're not exactly perfectly spherical, because this isn't a factor. Pound and a half of ground beef made us 26 meatballs. Now we're going to take these 26 meatballs and we're going to bring them to the frying pan. Our pan has been heated to medium-high heat. Now we're going to add a little bit of olive oil to the bottom of the pan so the meatballs don't stick when we put them in. Now we're going to take our tongs and we're going to just put the meatballs in the pan. Brown, and we're going to take them out and then we're going to add them to the sauce. Because I don't want them to get too brown on one side and then they won't cook through on the other side. So as you can see, this right here, this meatball, see that browning? It's exactly what we want on our meatballs. So now I'm going to let this side cook, and then I'm going to, as soon as all the meatballs are done, I'm going to put them back on this tray, and I'll see you when that's happening. So now that all our meatballs are done, we're going to add them to our sauce so that they become drenched in our delicious red sauce. That smells really good. Done. Our meatballs are done. It smells amazing. Now it's time to add it all together. We're going to add our meatballs to our sauce, cover it, let it simmer for about 1.5 hours, and let the meatballs finish cooking, and let all the tastes come together. In our sauce, we've got our meatballs, and now it's time to make the noodles. I've got 4 quarts of water here, which is perfect for 1 pound of spaghetti. 4 quarts of water brought to a boil, and then you add your salt. As soon as your salt's at a boil, you want to break open your spaghetti box. just like this. And then immediately add it all at once. And start stirring right away. This promotes even cooking and doesn't allow the noodles to stick together. These are going to cook for 8 to 12 minutes, and we're going to stir. These have been cooking for about 10 minutes. The next step is to test to see if they're done. Now, there are 2 ways to test to see if your noodles are done. The first way is to take a couple noodles, just simply try them. Delicious. Now, the more fun one, you just take your noodle, throw it again, throw it. Oh my God. Okay, you're supposed to be able to just see, it sticks, it's done. See, it's done. So, the next step is to carefully take your pot of pasta and dump it into a colander, making sure you get all the noodles out. And then as soon as that's done, turn it off, and then immediately run cold water over the pasta. Stop the cooking process, stop it from overcooking. The only thing left, eat and enjoy. So there you have it, a traditional Italian-American dish that didn't come from a can or a jar. This is such a great meal to have for any occasion. It's simple, yet awesome. So next time you have a craving for spaghetti and meatballs, ditch the can and grab a pan. And come dine with me. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on Dining with Dante.